The bailiff called the case like he was reading a grocery list, and my sister stood up before the last syllable landed. Not because she was eager to honor my grandfather, because she was eager to claim him. She wore a tailored cream coat over black, the kind of quiet luxury that makes people assume you're right before you speak. Her hair was perfect. Her face was dry. And when she looked at me, it wasn't grief in her eyes. It was calculation. Her attorney, slick suit, soft voice, expensive watch, walked to counsel table with a thin stack of papers and slid them forward like a blade. "Your Honor," he said, "we're moving for immediate transfer of the estate to my client, effective today." My parents nodded in unison behind him, like they'd practiced it in the mirror. My mother's hands were folded, solemn, as if she was in church, and my father stared straight ahead, jaw set, like this was a business meeting and I was the obstacle. The judge didn't look at them at first. He looked at me. "Ms. Vale," he said, voice flat. "Do you object?" My sister's lips twitched like she couldn't wait to hear me beg. I didn't. I sat up straighter, placed my hands on the table, and made sure my voice didn't shake. "Yes," I said. "I object." Her attorney smiled, faint and patronizing. "On what grounds?" he asked, already confident he'd walk through me. I didn't give him an argument. Not yet. "I want to wait until the last person arrives," I said. The judge blinked once. "The last person?" he repeated. I nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." My sister let out a small laugh that wasn't humor. "This is ridiculous," she said. "There is no one else." My father finally turned his head slightly toward me, just the way he used to when I was a teenager, and he wanted to remind me I was embarrassing the family. "You always do this," he muttered, just loud enough. The judge leaned back and adjusted his glasses. "Ms. Vale," he said, "this is probate court, not a stage. If you have an objection, it needs to be legal." "It is legal," I said calmly, "but it isn't mine to explain." My sister's attorney stepped closer, voice smooth. "Your Honor," he said, "we're requesting emergency appointment because Ms. Vale has been uncooperative. There are assets that need protection, and my client is the responsible party." Responsible. That word was always used like a weapon in my family. It meant, give us control and stop asking questions. My mother sighed softly as if she was suffering from my immaturity. "She's grieving," she said to the judge. She doesn't understand how these things work." My sister's eyes stayed on me, bright and cold. "I'm just trying to keep everything from falling apart," she said. "Grandpa would want it handled properly." I stared at her and thought about how quickly she'd found a lawyer, how fast the petition had appeared, how rehearsed my parents looked sitting behind her like backup singers. The judge turned a page in the case file. "This petition requests full authority over the estate," he said. "It alleges the respondent is unfit to participate and may interfere." My sister's attorney nodded. "Correct." "And you're asking me to grant that today," the judge said. "Yes, Your Honor," the attorney replied. "Effective immediately." The judge looked at me again. "Ms. Vale," he said, "what is your objection?" I kept my posture still. My objection is that they're asking you to act without the full record," I said. My sister laughed again, sharper. "There is no hidden record," she snapped. "He's dead. This is what happens." The judge's expression didn't change, but his patience thinned. "Ms. Vale," he said to my sister, "you will not speak out of turn." My father's lips pressed tighter. My mother's eyes narrowed like she hated being corrected. My sister's attorney tried to salvage the moment with politeness. "Your Honor, if Ms. Vale wants to delay, we object. The estate can't wait." I didn't look at him. I looked at the judge. "It won't be a delay," I said. "It'll be minutes." The judge exhaled once and glanced toward the courtroom doors, clearly deciding whether to entertain me. "Who are we waiting for?" he asked. I answered with the simplest truth I could say out loud. The person who actually controls the inheritance, I said. My sister's face tightened for the first time. That's me, she said automatically, and then caught herself when the judge's eyes flicked her way. The judge leaned forward slightly. Ms. Vale, he said to me, if this is a tactic— It isn't, I replied. I'm asking you to let the record arrive before you sign anything. A beat of silence. Then the courtroom doors opened. Not a dramatic swing, just a clean, controlled push like someone with purpose. A man stepped inside wearing a black suit so plain it looked like a uniform. No flashy tie. No jewelry. Just an envelope in his hand and a calm expression like he didn't care who in this room had money. He walked straight to the clerk's desk without looking at my parents or my sister. He held up the envelope, spoke clearly, and said my name. Ms. Vale? The judge blinked, reached for his glasses again, and watched the envelope like it didn't belong in his courtroom. The man in the black suit didn't raise his voice. He didn't explain himself. He simply placed the envelope on the clerk's desk with one hand and said, "This is for the court. From the trustee." The judge took the envelope, read the sender line, and his mouth moved as if he'd spoken before he meant to. "That can't be," he whispered. The judge didn't open the envelope like it was routine mail. He held it between two fingers, turned it once, and looked at the return address again as if the ink might change if he stared hard enough. Then he tore it open. No flourish, and just a clean rip, like he wanted the paper to stop pretending it mattered more than what was inside. The courtroom stayed so quiet I could hear my sister's attorney shift his weight. The judge pulled out a single folded document first. Thick stock, embossed seal in the corner. A signature block that looked too formal for the way my family had been treating this like a family meeting. He scanned the top line. His jaw tightened. Then he read the sender out loud. Hawthorne National Bank. Trust Department. My sister's face flickered, just for a second, before she rebuilt her composure. She'd built her entire life on being the person who handled money. Hearing a bank named in open court should have made her look powerful. Instead, it made her look caught. The judge kept reading. "This is a notice of trust administration," he said. It states the decedent's assets were placed into a revocable trust and that the trust became irrevocable upon death. My sister's attorney stood quickly. "Your Honor, we're in probate." The judge didn't even look up. "Sit down," he said. He turned one page. "And this," he added, voice flatter, "is a certification of trust identifying the trustee." He paused again, like the next line offended his sense of how lawsuits are supposed to work. Then he read it. "Successor trustee, Hawthorne National Bank, Trust Department." My parents stiffened, because they'd been aiming for control. A bank doesn't care about control the way families do. A bank cares about documents, conditions, and risk. My sister's attorney tried to recover with confidence. "Your Honor, even if there is a trust, probate still has jurisdiction over the estate." The judge finally looked up. "Counsel," he said, "your motion requested all of the inheritance effective immediately." He tapped the paper once with his finger. "This trust certification states in plain language that the probate estate is minimal and the bulk of assets are held in trust." He turned to the clerk. "Mark this as received," he said. Then he looked at my sister, not as a sister, not as family, like a petitioner who had just tried to take something she didn't control. "Ms. Vale," he said to her, "did you know your grandfather established a trust with a corporate trustee?" My sister lifted her chin. "He was influenced," she said. He didn't understand what he was signing." The judge didn't argue with her feelings. He held up the next page. "This notice includes a copy of the trust's execution affidavit and the list of witnesses," he said. "It also includes an attorney's certification that the decedent signed with full capacity." My father's mouth tightened. My mother's eyes narrowed like she was trying to choose a new angle. And then the judge hit the line that made him whisper that can't be in the first place. He read it slowly so no one could later claim they misunderstood. "No contest clause triggered." Any beneficiary who petitions to seize trust assets contrary to terms forfeits their distribution. My sister's attorney's face drained. My sister's eyes widened a fraction, then narrowed, like she was trying to bully the paper into backing down. My mother's hands unclasped for the first time. The judge looked up. "Counsel," he said to my sister's attorney, "you filed a motion for immediate transfer of all inheritance to your client." "Yes, Your Honor," the attorney said carefully. "You understand," the judge replied, "that if this clause is enforceable, the act of filing your motion may have already caused forfeiture." The attorney swallowed. "Your Honor, we dispute the validity." The judge cut him off. "You can dispute it," he said, "but you don't get to pretend it isn't there." Then he looked at me again. "Ms. Vale," he said, "you asked to wait for the last person to arrive. Was this the person?" "Yes," I said. My voice stayed level, even though my pulse had climbed into my throat. "The trust department is the trustee. They control distribution." The man in the black suit, still standing near the clerk like he belonged to procedure, spoke for the first time. "Your Honor," he said, "I calm and precise. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to deliver notice and confirm the trustee's position." The judge gestured once. "State it," he said. The man didn't look at my parents. He didn't look at my sister. He looked at the judge. "The trustee does not recognize the petitioner's request," he said. "The trustee will not distribute assets to anyone based on today's motion. The trustee will administer per the trust terms and is requesting the court dismiss any attempt to seize trust-controlled assets through probate." My sister snapped, "You can't just—" The judge raised his hand. "Ms. Vale," he said sharply, "you will not speak out of turn." My sister shut her mouth, but her breathing changed. Faster now, thinner. Her attorney stood again, trying to salvage ground. "Your Honor, at minimum, we move to compel production of the full trust," he said. "We question whether my client was improperly removed or whether there is undue influence by the respondent." The judge's eyes didn't soften. "Undue influence is a serious allegation," he said. "And you just watched audio evidence of attempted coercion aimed at the decedent, which did not come from the respondent." My father's jaw ticked. The judge turned to the man in black again. "Has the trustee provided the trust instrument to counsel?" he asked. "Yes," the man answered. "A complete copy was delivered to both sides yesterday via certified service." My mother's head snapped toward my sister's attorney like a whip. Yesterday, meaning they'd known. Or should have known, meaning they'd filed anyway. The judge let that fact sit in the room for a beat, then looked at my sister with something close to disgust. "Ms. Vale," he said, "did you receive the trust documents yesterday?" My sister's lips parted, and for the first time she looked less like an executive and more like someone cornered. She started. Her attorney cut in fast. "Your Honor, we received a packet, but—" The judge interrupted him. "Counsel," he said, "if you received a packet containing a no contest clause and still filed a motion demanding all inheritance effective immediately, I want you to understand what that looks like to this court." The attorney went still. The judge turned to the clerk. "Set a hearing," he said, "on standing and sanctions, and I want the trustee's letter entered into the record." Then he looked directly at my sister. "And Ms. Vale," he added, voice colder now, "if you are a named beneficiary and you triggered forfeiture, today may have cost you more than you intended." My sister's face tightened into something ugly. Her eyes cut to me, and the hatred there wasn't about money. It was about the fact that the institution she thought would crown her had just marked her as a risk. Then she did what she always did when she couldn't win with paperwork. She tried to win with a news story. "Your Honor," she said suddenly, voice loud, turning toward the bench with practiced urgency, "I need to put something on the record." The judge's eyes narrowed. "What?" he said. "Exactly?" My sister looked straight at me and said, the one word my parents had been saving like a bullet: elder abuse. And the judge's expression changed, not because he believed her, but because now the court had to decide whether she had proof or whether she was about to hang herself with another false allegation. Elder abuse, my sister repeated, louder, like volume could turn accusation into evidence. My mother's face softened instantly into performance grief. My father leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing, like this was the plan they'd been waiting to deploy. Her attorney stood beside her as if he'd been handed an emergency exit. Your Honor, he said, we request an immediate inquiry. The respondent isolated the decedent, controlled access, and coerced him into signing documents that benefit her. The judge didn't react like a daytime TV audience. He reacted like a judge. He leaned forward and said, Counsel, those are serious allegations. What evidence do you have today? My sister didn't blink. Witnesses, she said, and she gestured behind her. Two relatives stood awkwardly near the back rows like they'd been drafted. My aunt and a cousin I barely spoke to. Their faces were tense, eyes sliding away from mine. My mother nodded encouragingly at them like she was coaching them silently. The judge looked at them, unimpressed. Witnesses can testify, he said. But I want something concrete. Medical reports, prior complaints, police reports, a PS involvement. Anything. My sister's jaw tightened. He didn't want to embarrass the family, she said quickly. He was scared. The judge's expression stayed flat. Then explain why he called emergency services himself, he said. Silence. My sister tried to pivot. He was confused, she said. He didn't know what he was doing. The judge glanced down at the bank's envelope again. This trust was executed with a capacity affidavit and witnesses, he said. That is not confusion. That is formalized intent. My father's attorney rose, voice smooth. Your Honor, we also have evidence the respondent had access to accounts and controlled communications. Elliot stood immediately. Objection, he said. This is argument without foundation. The judge held up a hand. Counsel, he said to my sister's attorney, do you have that evidence here? My sister's attorney hesitated a fraction. Then he did what attorneys do when they have a narrative, but not the record. We would request discovery, he said. The judge's eyes hardened. Discovery is not a fishing license, he replied. You do not accuse someone of elder abuse in open court as a strategy to seize assets held in trust. My sister's face flushed. It's not a strategy, she snapped. The judge leaned back. Then bring evidence, he said. Not theatrical relatives. My mother's voice trembled, practiced. Your Honor, she said. She kept us away. She made him hate us. The judge looked at her once. Ma'am, he said, this is not family therapy. Then he turned his attention to the one person in the room who had no emotional stake, just fiduciary responsibility. He addressed the man in black. Sir, he said, does the trustee have any documentation of concerns regarding undue influence or abuse? The man didn't hesitate. No, Your Honor, he said. The trustee conducted standard intake. The decedent met privately with counsel. He confirmed his intent. The trustee received a letter of instruction and supporting materials. The judge's gaze sharpened. Supporting materials? He asked. Yes, the man replied. A log and a statement. The decedent wanted them preserved. My sister's head snapped up. What statement? She demanded. The judge didn't look at her. Provide it, he told the man. The man reached into a second envelope he'd been holding, one I hadn't noticed because it was thinner and unmarked, and handed it to the clerk. The clerk passed it to the judge. The judge opened it and pulled out a single-page letter. He read silently for several seconds, eyes moving with careful attention. Then he looked up at me, not with warmth, with the weight of something he understood. Ms. Vale, he said, Did you know your grandfather prepared a written statement, anticipating today's allegations? Yes, I said quietly. He told me he did, but I didn't know what he wrote.